Cecilia turned back to Nathan and smiled widely at him. "Thank you, young Master Nathan. I am truly touched by your present, and I owe you a great debt for such a thoughtful gift. I can only hope that House Hayfield will join us for gatherings more often, so we can express our gratitude more thoroughly." Seeing her mother's words, Donna Lightstone also smiled at Nathan and bowed slightly toward him, a powerful expression of her thanks for all to see. "Thank you very much, then. I knew my brothers weren't wrong to like you. I'll not be so formal next time." Amelia blushed as she stopped hiding behind Nathan, who almost chuckled at Donna's actions. Lucius Lightstone cleared his throat and thoughtfully scratched his beard. "Yes, young Nathan, I thank you for the generous gift." Although the High Lord Lightstone had no interest in maintaining a youthful appearance, he was extremely pleased with his wife and daughter's reaction to the gift. Although he still knew little of Nathan Hayfield, beyond the tales of his sons had told him, he was already quite pleased and impressed with the young man's actions. Nathan smiled at the Lightstone family and saluted them with Amelia at his side. "All of you are far too kind. My sister and I simply wished to do our best to please you. You have no need to praise us before even trying out the potion." Nathan smiled as everyone took in his words. He spoke humbly, but in his mind, he knew that once they used the potion and saw how effective it was, House Lightstone's impression of them would instantly increase tenfold. Still, Nathan's words sowed the seeds of doubt amongst the guests in the great hall, and many of the jealous suitors went back to their murmurings. "That's right. What if the potion isn't effective on them? Or what if it's a fake? What if he tried to make a counterfeit potion and it has a negative effect?" "Exactly. He couldn't possibly have bought it or made it himself. Who knows? The elixir itself might be defective. It could even be dangerous." "Lady Cecilia, wait. I wouldn't take that if I were you. Nobody's ever seen a real elixir of youth before. It's impossible to know if it's real or fake. You'd better be careful." Nathan looked at the crowd of naysayers and shook his head. He turned back to Lady Cecilia and knelt before her. "Lady Cecilia, I swear to you, the potion is genuine. If you wish, you may take it now for all to see. If it does not work, as I have said, I promise the heavens to lay down my sword and never again practice the spiritual fighting arts for the rest of my days." Amelia frowned at Nathan's intense words. She tugged on the back of his shirt and whispered in his ear, "Nathan, what are you doing? Why bet your entire future on if a potion works or not? Even if it fails and we are forced to leave in disgrace, it's not worth the risk." Nathan smiled and stayed kneeling before Cecilia. He nodded for Amelia to leave him alone. "Don't worry, sis. I know what I'm doing." Amelia sighed as she stepped away from Nathan and shook her head. Nathan's pledge to never again use his spiritual fighting arts again was not a trivial one. The power of Asura was a jealous and fickle form of magic. Amelia knew that the heavens would hear Nathan's promise, and if he broke it, he would likely lose his magical abilities altogether, whether he wished to honor his promise or not. That would mean that Nathan would have no way of properly defending himself during the upcoming challenge with House Raven, and thus would likely spell the end of House Hayfield. The High Lord Lightstone stood up and groaned at Nathan's words. "Oh, careful, young man. A magic vow such as this is not to be spoken lightly. You should not act on mere impulse here." Sir Ian nodded at his father's words. "That's right, Nathan. There's no need for you to gamble away your future or even your life." Nathan smiled confidently at Sir Ian. "I appreciate your words of concern, and those of your father, but I do not speak lightly, and I am risking nothing. After all, why should I fear for my safety when I know my potion is effective?" The High Lord Lightstone stroked his beard and couldn't help but laugh at Nathan's audacity. "To think that you're so bold at such a young age. If my lads have half the courage you muster, they'll go very far indeed. Very well, then. I do not doubt your word, young man." Cecilia smiled at her husband's laughter. She, too, stood up and held up the vial once more. Since you are such a reassuring young man, I shall test this matter on the spot, so none dare question it." Cecilia chuckled as she unsealed the cork, popped open the vial, and took a delicate sip of the neon green potion. As she did this, Lucius Lightstone stopped laughing. "Cecilia, wait." But it was too late. She'd already brought the liquid to her lips. The High Lord had wanted to intervene, but he knew that if he'd stopped his wife now, she would never forgive him. She had quite the temper, after all, and he knew eventually she'd do it anyway. He could only sigh and watch with the hundreds of guests as they waited to see what would happen. Pardon me." Everyone in the great hall waited with bated breath as Cecilia burped slightly, then corked up the remaining potion and sat back down in her seat, slowly humming to herself as the seconds ticked by. The eyes of the people in the crowd widened, and some began to gasp as the changes happened almost instantly. Lady Cecilia's hair was the first thing to change. Then her skin began to glow. The gray and white strands turned into a rich, dark black shade. The wrinkles on her face and hands suddenly disappeared altogether, quickly receding as her skin grew flush and taut once more. Even her pale skin color grew brighter and more full of life. In the time it took hot water to boil, Cecilia's appearance had entirely changed. The withered old matriarch was now in the prime of her life again, fresh-faced and bright-eyed. Meanwhile, the High Lord Lightstone's mouth fell agape as he looked at his wife, who now seemed no older than 35 years old. He stuttered as he tried to find the words. Heavens bless us! This potion is the work of the divine." As for Sir Ian and Stuart, they were utterly speechless and completely shocked by their mother's transformation. Finally, Stuart was able to get a few words out as his eyes went back and forth between his mother and his sister. "Donna, look. Mom looks like she could be your sister. Some might even think you're the older one." Donna rolled her eyes at her little brother, then shook her head and stared at her own green vial. "How is this even possible?" "Burp! Pardon me." All eyes fell on Cecilia as her eyes blinked, and she stared down at her wrinkle-free hands. "Incredible! I feel so much better." Cecilia turned and beamed toward Nathan and Amelia, who also stood there dumbstruck. Cecilia stood and grasped Nathan and Amelia's shoulders. "Thank you both so very much. Your potion is extremely good. I don't know how I'll ever be able to repay you." Immediately, the crowd murmured amongst themselves once more. Mostly the words were full of shock and amazement, but Nathan was still able to detect the unsatisfied ramblings of a few jealous suitors who hated how much Cecilia and Donna appreciated House Hayfield's gift. "So what if it works? Just some kind of cosmetic trick. It's not like it has any real power behind it or value on the battlefield." "Yeah, exactly. It's nice and all, but it's not particularly useful to warriors like us. At the end of the day, it's just a fancy little tonic that won't help you in a fight." The suitors' faces grew red as they tried their best to undervalue the miracle they'd all just witnessed. Since they'd already ridiculed Nathan's gift out loud, they could only double down their criticisms or face even more public embarrassment.
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.